I gotta say, this is McDonald's up the street. Is the reason he's so successful is they give you incredible service. I don't think there's another McDonald's in this city that has service like that McDonald's. They're phenomenally friendly. I've always been very happy when I've stopped in there. But what we're here to talk about is new ideas and how to build the Dayton of the future. And as you notice, I don't need a microphone, and if my voice sounds loud or booming, it's because I was trained in the Army to speak to large groups with what they call a command voice. It's not going to go away anytime soon, and we've got more important things to talk about, so get used to it. I'm not angry, I'm not mad, I'm just making sure you can hear me. So, we got work to do. And I'm going to talk about how it begins with counting to 3. Actually, I lied. The story begins 20 years ago. No, I lied again. It begins 27 years ago. 27 years ago, on January 28, 1986. Anybody remember that? Well, that also happened to be the day that I said, hey, Mom, Dad, guess what? I bought a house. I bought a house for $14,500. I thought that was a little odd because your house isn't supposed to cost less than a car. But this is Dayton. This is the problem we face. I bought the house at 113 Bonner Street with its aluminum siding. This is what's partial. And they came down, and I started to work on it. Unfortunately, that house had a garage. Now, a lot of you know we have problems with garages falling down and garages burning up and garages in general. Well, my garage had those bypass doors that were really kind of awkward, you know, barn doors. And so I put up some new doors. They looked a lot like these, but they were wood grain vinyl. And next thing you know, I thought I did a good thing, right? The city takes me to court. They took me to court for fixing up my house. We had a real problem here, I thought. So what did I do? I went down to City Hall. That's where you usually go. You go talk to your elected representatives and hope they will represent you and help you. What did I get? I got a deaf ear. Not only did I get a deaf ear, but, you know, it was incredible. They didn't ask questions. They didn't say, thank you for buying a house in the city of Dayton. They did not care. I went back over and over and over. I was a big Tom Peters fan. He wrote In Search of Excellence. I gave them speeches about customer service. I gave them speeches about how you have to talk to the people, listen to the customers. They didn't care. And the funny thing is, you know, they told me the problem was because it was a historic district. Well, you know, I actually have a little bit of expertise there because my parents bought this house and I grew up in an actual national landmark in Cleveland. I'm the National Register of Historic Places, Funky House. Let me tell you, that's a national landmark. This is no national landmark. This is a garage. So, like all good American boys who've been in the military and think our country, you know, needs bold leadership, I decided I was going to run for mayor. I wasn't real impressed with the mayor we had at the time, and apparently a whole lot of other people weren't. Because 20 years ago, when I entered the political fray in Dayton, we had a rare primary. We had lots of candidates. It was amazing. That was the ballot. I had to take a picture of it because that's the first time picture. My name had been on the ballot, and I have a little history lesson here. We had the candidates for mayor. We had Mike Turner, who people confuse with me all the time. We had Clay Dixon, the incumbent. We had Jim Sweeney, another former paratrooper, may he rest in peace. We had Gary Kidd, who actually lied and said he lived on Bonner Street and still was allowed to be on the ballot. And that wouldn't happen today. They do their best to keep people off the ballot. But back then, no, Gary Kidd lied. He lived somewhere else. He said he lived on Bonner, got on the ballot. And we had this guy, who I don't even remember, Emerson Glazer. And then there was me. We had 5 candidates for the commission, so we had a primary there too. We had incumbents Tony Capizzi and Dick Zimmer, may he rest in peace. We had Bill Ogman, the Reverend. We had Mark Donaldson. And we had this guy, Dean Lovelace. So 1993 was the last time the people had a chance to change 3 people on the commission and make a difference. Well, almost. Because they actually had a chance to do 4 people, because Mark Henry resigned, and we had a special election. And in that special election, because Mark Donaldson had already been knocked off the ballot in the primary, but in the special election we had Judy Orrick, wife of Abner Orrick, Mary Sue Kessler, wife of the judge. We had me, and then Dean did the unthinkable and moved from one race to the other and got elected. Mark Donaldson went back on the ballot. So we changed 2 people. One being the mayor, Mike Turner, and Which leads me to say, yes, 3 would have been a big change, but the question that I still ask today, is Dayton ready for change? That's what we really have to answer here, because frankly, I've lived here for 27 years, and the pace of change has been incredibly slow. So, I thought I'd whip out some, I brought some, today I brought out 20-year-old literature for you to read if you want. It was long. People said, no one will read that. Voters don't want to know things. They want to hear things about, like, you were born in Dayton, you went to school in Dayton, this, that, and another thing. There's at least 2 candidates on the ballot that'll tell you that. That's what they tell about. They had nothing to do with it. That's their parents. My parents didn't. I wasn't born here. Okay. So, the economics lesson here is simple. The tax base will continue to decline so we can attract and retain residents raising children who are not on public assistance. With a declining tax base, we will not be able to attract businesses to serve our residents. Sound familiar? I wrote that 20 years ago. Here we go. We have been led by committees, panels, and task forces for too long. We generate paper instead of prosperity. A 268-page city budget is just a new way to fill a landfill. That was written by our current city manager, by the way. And I still have the Dayton 2020 vision plan that was done in 1999, this thick. We've had plan after plan after plan, folks. We have had committees. That's not what it takes to change the city. And I'm talking 20 years ago here. I said, I believe political parties, political action committees, and lawn campaigns have corrupted the system. The only people I will owe anything to is the voters who elect me. Wow. Hasn't changed there either. I said the city should be clean and safe. Businesses should feel welcome and appreciated. Infrastructure should be in good repair. Citizens of all ages and races should be able to live, work, and play together. Wow. 20 years ago, I'm talking about the same things I'm talking about now. Here were the topics on the back, and you see there were lots of them. You see that handsome Delville there. Fort 5 Oaks, gun control, waste, pay for performance, landfills and well fields, housing, safety in the neighborhoods, consent decree, the return to neighborhood schools and integration, how we bring jobs and taxpayers back to the west side, how subsidized daycare will create tax revenue, and the year-round school, and last but not hard time for crime, and the proposed Port Authority. The proposed Port Authority has failed time and time again since they went ahead and did it. Some of these things we never did. The consent decree has decimated our police and fire services. It didn't work. We needed a better solution. There is a better solution. I said all these things. I was on the issues. You can see 20 years later, this guy had some good ideas, but I lost. You know what? I've lost a lot of times. I don't quit. Part of it might be because, well, that's how my parents raised me. Part of it might be because I wear one of those when I feel like it. I'm a U.S. Army paratrooper. And then there's also this, that when you feel deep down that you have something that you have to give to somebody, you don't quit. It's not an option. And since we're sitting in the mecca of basketball in Dayton, I thought I'd throw up a Michael Jordan quote, the key to success is failure. And I have failed at running for office so many times it's unbelievable. But what's more important is the people you've elected have failed you more. They have failed you more. Basic services have been neglected while we're building towers and skyscrapers and giving tax breaks to one business and not to another, and that has to stop. That's how we get to building the Dayton of the future. And one more, what I said then, sorry about that. What I said then, in the last mayoral race, Admiral Rourke spent $60,000 to lose a $36,000 a year job. Okay? That is embarrassing to me. The Turner-Capizzi race was almost $900,000. Ryan McClin spent $120,000 to lose to Gary Lightsoe, who spent $20,000. When he said, I want to challenge people to $10,000, everybody should have gone for it. Only Mr. Greer, myself, and the mayor are doing it. But I gotta wonder, because when I ran the first time, I ran into Mayor Dixon, who got pretty upset with me when I was talking about his $27,000 he'd raised. I thought that was an ungodly amount. He took me outside. I'd also mentioned the money came from a developer who wanted to build a landfill on the west side. That's really what rubbed him raw. And that made the front page of the paper. I haven't made the front page of the paper since, I don't think. I don't remember. But I was officially a threat. Things started happening. I had my window shot out. I got called with death threats. It was pretty amazing. Anyways, that was 20 years ago. I still say we take the money in politics out of public office and you'll get your money's worth. We used to mail a thing called Dayton Update to every household. It was an incredible waste of money, but you know, the amazing thing was it was all about the politicians. It was like their free campaign fund. So I'm glad it's gone. But what I ask of you, if we could afford that, why can't we afford to mail a voter's guide to every registered voter, where we give equal space to every candidate, and you sit there and make a good informed decision? It would make more sense. It would be the way a civilized society does it, because I'm telling you, you don't learn anything from a yard sign, and if you look at anybody else's literature and do a word count, you'll see I exceed them by probably a factor of 100. So, is it better to let outsiders buy our commission? Because that's what we're having. When you're getting $5,000 donations, I mean, it buys an awful lot of mailings and things, but is that really what you want them to be working for somebody else? And, you know, I have to ask, what does it buy? And lately, it's bought a lot of demolition. I want to put people first, because, frankly, I've lived in a neighborhood for 27 years, and I'll tell you something. You don't build a city by tearing it down. And I'm going to tell you something else. A city is not a collection of buildings. It's a collection of people. Without the people, you don't have a city. Trust me. Chernobyl's a city. There's nobody living in it, but Chernobyl is a city. And that's what we're letting this city turn into, because we're so focused on buildings and, you know, tearing things down. It's ridiculous. I know a little bit about this because that was my office. That was when we started. We'd already ripped off some of the really ugly parts. And then here it is, just as we were done. It now has jobs. I can walk to work. I have employees. It won beautification awards. That building, I bought it for $2,200 and it had $2,400 in back taxes. My father, he thought I was crazy second time. First time was the house, second time was the office. So, got bad news for you folks. Right now, we have a 15-year backlog on demolition. We're going to spend, round numbers, $150 million tearing things down. What could we buy with $150 million? Well, would you rather have a lot of empty lots? Because that's what you get when you tear things down, is empty lots. Or would you rather be Ohio's first digital city with Wi-Fi everywhere and high-speed fiber optic coming into your house? We can sit there and beg and wait for Google to come do it, or we can do it ourselves. We have the fiber already in place. We need to take the initiative to put an investment into our community, and especially to end the digital divide, which is that poor people can't get online, which is where the jobs are, which is where the future is going. We could give students, every student in the city that goes to Dayton Public Schools, we could give them a laptop. But instead, you know what we did? What we spent our money on? We created another empty lot at the corner of Wayne and Wyoming. We spent about $4 million. That is not development, people. That is not investing in people. That's investing in real estate. That's making a developer very rich. I'm in marketing. I own an ad agency. I'm going to tell you marketing 101 right here. You have to actually make a better mousetrap to sell it. And empty lots are not attracting anything to this community. We have to come up with something like alternative green housing made from the houses that we do have to demolish, the ones we don't have a choice for. Where we actually, there's a company in my neighborhood that hires ex-cons, or ex-offenders, trains them how to deconstruct houses. They have these building materials, and they take these things, and we can build energy-efficient housing, except there's a law that says you can't use recycled materials in new construction. That law needs to be changed. Because I can tell you this, 100-year-old lumber is a lot sturdier than that stuff they grew up in a little pine tree farm somewhere. And something else. IKEA had to sign for the 235 square foot house. My cousin, 15 years ago, was excited because he paid $1,200 a month for a 300 square foot apartment. The size of houses is a major an obstacle for people coming out of homelessness, coming out of prison, people who don't have jobs, people who are trying to get started. We expect an awful lot of them to move into a big house and pay the big utility bills and everything else. If we can provide a starter home, a startup, we can give them the ability to do more with less. And we can be very effective. So, this is my parents' house. They thought I was crazy when I bought this too. They now live in it. I bought it, it was 1905. I overpaid for this. It was a disaster. And that house is 850 square feet. Guess what? Can't build those houses anymore for that. You gotta have, it's gotta be 900 square feet, it's gotta have this, it's gotta have that. No, it doesn't. We're gonna have a whole lot of seniors who are gonna end up with too much house and have to go somewhere, and there's gonna be no place for them to go as they live longer. This is a problem we can start solving, and we can be a leader and an innovator in the entire country. So, making Dayton even more affordable requires new ideas. How about one like bike share? I've been pumping this for 4 or 5 years now. Not bike giveaway, yellow bike, steal bike programs, but actual bike share. The impact of this program, where we get 10,000 UD students and 20,000 Sinclair students out into the community, moving off those campuses into downtown, would be huge. The impact for low-income people, who 25% of our population can't afford to own a car. All of a sudden they have bicycles everywhere and anywhere, and they don't have to worry about maintaining them. They're there, they take them, they go. Huge impact. This isn't new stuff, folks. I've ridden them in London, I've ridden them in Paris. They've got them everywhere. We could have been an innovator 4 years ago and been one of the first American mid-sized cities to do it, but no, I'm not going to get into to stop that. But you want to know something interesting? A car and health insurance are tied as the two biggest expenses after housing. So I'm tackling the things that make it expensive to live here. Our major advantage is cheap living here. So, remember, I started about micro-housing and alternative housing solutions first. Now we move to bikes. So you got all this extra money, you got all this extra time, and you're in better shape because you're riding a bike everywhere. Now what do we got to do? We got to provide parks and rec. Now we're sitting here in a great facility, an amazing facility. You're lucky to have this facility. We're all lucky to have this facility. My plan originally was to build a huge recplex on the Parkside Homes location. Everything from football field, indoor football fields, soccer fields, outdoor basketball courts. Before this came along, I mean, I've been writing about this for a long time. I had one megaplex, an Olympic facility, velodromes, the whole 9 yards. Something for everybody in this community. Now, we didn't do that, but this is Anna. This is my kid. She went out last year and played football with the boys with the Dayton Vikings. They played on the old Belmont High School football practice field. I hate to tell you, the Vikings wanted to buy that field. The Vikings are in this community doing a great thing, and you know what? I've seen artillery ranges that are flatter than that field. I've seen corrugated metal that's flatter than that field. That field is a disaster. It's a health hazard. We can't even grade a football field for our kids to play on. But we got money to build buildings downtown. We got money for this. We got money for that. Well, let's get back to this. Best-in-class service. This is what a city is supposed to do. Cities have responsibilities to their taxpayers to provide services. How about this? More police, more fire, less bureaucrats. Good start. Instead, well, let's see. We could do street repair, street sweeping, waste collection. How about leaf collection? Remember when we used to do that? We don't do that anymore. Instead, what do? We buy real estate. We buy real estate. Oops. We buy real estate for $900,000 that we don't know anything, have a public use for. Not only that, have you ever heard anyone say, I'm moving to XYZ city because the city owns a lot of real estate? No. This city, number 6, $25.5 million in real estate. That's a problem. How about this? There's nothing we can buy that beats great service and affordable product and giving the customer what they want. Huh? A safe place to live, work, and invest. That's all. Pretty simple, huh? Yeah. Let's move on. First step, elect 3 independent people to the commission. Because guess what? It takes 3 votes to allow us to change the charter. If we could change the charter, we could change all kinds of things, like easier to run for office, easier to change the charter, easier to remove us if we suck. No more separate race for mayor. We just give it to the person who has the most votes every 2 years. Write-in candidates, campaign finance limits, and recognize neighborhood leadership. Being different makes Dayton more interesting. Speaking of neighborhoods, it's time to create an incentive for reward system for great neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that are great do things like this: programs for kids, progressive parties, regular meetings, community gardens, book clubs, neighborhood watch, tools, share public art. You get the picture. I'm running out of time. This is what South Park has done over the last 20 years. All those things. And guess what? We're one of only 3 neighborhoods where the property tax values went up during the recession. Not only that, rentals are in short supply, investors have invested, and we've still got work to do. We charge owners in the city fines for too many false alarm calls. How about charging the people that have too many police calls? I've got a house 2 doors down from me, 22 police calls a year. We have a parking problem downtown. How about letting scooters and motorcycles park free on oversized sidewalks? Nobody's walking. We could do that. They do it in Paris. I agree with Mayor Leitzel. Change is something best done constantly and in small steps. Inspiration, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Aristotle. Don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. Seth Godin. You don't want to invent new ideas, not new rules. Dan Heath. And my favorite from my friend Sally, aspire to be the dumbest person in the room. Think about that. I'm almost done, Jerry. Vote independent May 3rd, 7th, 2013. And www.ms.gov